Hello YouTube, Canadian Edge here. Time for another knife review, and today we are looking at a Schrade, and this is the Schrade SCH001. It has a blade length of 3.3 inches. It closed it is 4.63 inches, and open it is 7.9 inches. So it's a good sized knife, fairly big. The steel on it is NCR 14 MOV. It has a drop point blade. The weight of it is 4.4 ounces, but it doesn't actually feel like a heavy knife. I have to admit, I have some knives that are a little lighter than this, but they feel heavier and bulkier. So it doesn't necessarily feel like a big, bulky knife. The handle on it, it is a Zytel or rubberized handle. So it's an inexpensive type handle. But it's definitely grippy. You can see all the texturing there, honeycomb type texturing that gives it some grip. It is a flipper opening and also dual thumb stud. So you have the two methods of opening it, and it fires pretty good. If you saw the video of the unboxing, this was pretty stiff. So I put some pivot lubrication on it, and I believe it's Teflon by the looks of it. Teflon washers in there. And I adjusted the pivot screw a little bit, and it fires pretty nice now, which I'm glad of. Always like a knife that's easy to use. The pocket clip on this, it is a right hand tip down only. Well, I shouldn't say that. No, it is. It's right hand tip down because it doesn't have the mounting screws on the side. So it is only a right hand tip down carry. It is a liner lock on it, and so you have the jimping on the liner lock to get a good purchase on there. And it does have a lanyard hole on the back for those of you who like a lanyard. And it has jimping, some jimping on the back of the blade, some jimping on the handle, and down here as well at the back, so you can get a purchase with it. So jimping in a bunch of different places, and it's actually quite comfortable jimping, so that's good. And it does have a finger choil of sorts. I'm not sure if it's a sharpening choil or finger choil. You can get a finger in there. Want to be careful though, because it is right up against the cutting edge. So it has no blade plate. Well, maybe slightly side to side, but nothing up and down. And it is fairly centered. I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, it sits fairly centered when I hold it so you can actually see it. There we go. So I got this one. It was a, what was a $17 knife. I hadn't had any Schrade knives, at least not that I remember, but I'm very familiar with Schrade. And I have to say, once I got the pivot working properly on this thing, I actually like this. This has to be my favorite $17 knife. If you're looking for an inexpensive knife, it actually works pretty good. Well, not the way I'm working it, but you can see it actually, the pivot now works quite well with both thumb stud and flipper, and then not quite drop close, but it for 17 bucks it works better than some of my more expensive knives. So yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. And looking at this knife, I thought the aesthetics were okay. It's not like a great wow factor or anything on it. But it's a decent looking knife. The ergonomics on it are really good. Especially for pushing forward and that, you get some alternate grips there and could do slicing if you're making kindling or something for campfire, or cutting up stuff for cooking out at the campfire, or sharpening a marshmallow stick. You get a variety of different grips that you can use, and I have to say the grip is comfortable. The texture is quite pronounced on it, but it is a comfortable grip. You could use this for quite a while and not be bothered by the grip. Maybe a little bit by the pocket clip, because the pocket clip does have that little kick on there, which you do feel in your hand. But the handle itself is comfortable. Maybe not so much for a big hand. I'm a medium hand, and you can see I just fit inside the hand groove there. So a bigger hand, you would be outside, and maybe that's why they put the jimping on. I think it also helps with the different grips. If you're using the knife for different things, it gives you a different grip. So, or helps you to get a purchase on the knife. And let's look at size comparisons. So it is a bigger knife, as I said. This is the Ontario Rat 2. So you can see it's a bit bigger than the Rat 2. And the Benchmade Bug Out. It's got some size on that as well. A little more length. At least ½ an inch on the end there. And a couple more knives here. Try and be quick. We got the Tenacious, which is pretty close to the same size. And one of my favorites lately, the Cogent, which basically they are the same size. Cogent might, no, they're pretty much the same size. So good size knife if you're looking for a bigger knife. And so I told you what I liked about it. Oh, sharpness test. Let's see. How sharp does it come? A 9 CR. It'd be easy to sharpen if you had to sharpen it. But you know what? I have to say it comes fairly sharp. Clean up my mess here. And of course, you're all waiting patiently for the zip tie, right? If you've seen my videos before, you know that I don't like zip ties very much. So, oh, cuts through that pretty easy. Oh, should have cut longer. Cuts through that. The nylon cord fairly well. Does kind of want to ride up the blade a little bit, but also cuts through that pretend paracord quite well. So as I mentioned before, it does have good ergonomics to it, good grip, it's comfortable. It is a bit bigger knife, so in the pocket it is a little bit bigger, kind of bulky in the pocket. The flipper, one thing you have to be careful of if you're going to use the thumb studs is to make sure that your finger is back far enough to avoid, let me see if you can see that, to avoid getting pinched by the flipper tab, which I have done on occasion. So you want to make sure your finger is good and back when you flip that open with the thumb studs, but it fires very easy with the flipper tab. So, but it is something to be aware of when using the thumb studs. Make sure the flipper tab does not pinch your finger, because it hurts. So, and you know, it's not a end of the world that it's tip down carry. Lots of knives are, but most people prefer the tip up carry. But for 17 bucks, man, I was very impressed with this knife. Once I did a little maintenance to it, it, as I say, fires really well. It drops closed almost. It's good in the hand. If you've got a medium hand, it fits the hand just perfect. And so I think this would be a great EDC, especially if you're a person who maybe is a little tougher on knives and you have to replace knives now and again. This is an inexpensive replacement. Or this would be a great knife for a starter knife. For a young person, you know, the first knife that you give to them, or to a friend that is new to knives. I think this would be a great knife for them if they don't mind a bigger knife. So that is the Schrade SCH001. Check them out anywhere that sells Schrades, and they're inexpensive. I'll see, and maybe get around to using this. I've got a few knives I have to get through yet, but maybe try and use this out in the backyard and stuff and see how it holds up to a bit of wear and tear. Might not last as long as some of the more expensive knives, but for 17 bucks, I really have no complaint on that. And I've looked at other budget knives, so to speak, that are, you know, $20 or under, and a lot of them I would not bother with giving them to anybody or using myself, but I'm pleasantly surprised by that one. Schrade SCH001. All right, that's it for this review. Thanks for joining me. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, leave me a comment. I'll be doing another review in a couple of days. Until then, I'll say stay safe and stay sharp.